Hello again and welcome back to this installment of AirJobBoss TV. Today we are going over the continuation of the pilot interview question and answer series, and today's question is, tell me about a time you politely but forcefully had to tell somebody to do something. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's figure out some scenarios where this could happen. Number one, now let's keep it to the airline business because don't try to skirt this by taking it outside the airline business. A lot of preparation, people will tell you, oh, you don't want to touch this one. You want to take this outside of the aviation environment. Well, they're hiring you to be a captain or a first officer, a crew member at an airline. They're not hiring you in a sales position or customer service, sandwich shop business, cashier, or likewise. So just be brave enough to face this head on in the aviation environment. Now, this is where one-on-one preparation is absolutely good at. This is the difference between getting one-on-one preparation and group bulk preparation, because one-on-one preparation can fashion this to your experience, your talents, and your skills, to the culture and the question of that company. And you need to do that. To be in a competitive environment, you really need good preparation. Okay, so here's the three categories I've selected. The somebody who you're going to be polite and forceful to. One, a passenger, right? Passengers sometimes are non-compliant with instructions. And in some cases, some airlines allow the captain to go and mediate or resolve these situations. Number two, to your first officer. As a captain, there's sometimes you need to be polite but forceful to that first officer. Number three, to a flight attendant. Sometimes as a captain, you need to be forceful but polite to a flight attendant. Ground personnel, fuelers, gate agent, maintenance personnel. These are the people you interact with, okay? Now, the topic under which you're going to bring this up in your question, your answer is going to be based on safety and a written policy. So, for example, passenger decided that they were going to, after the passenger boarding door was closed, they were going to move their seat. They were going to change seats. And the reason why that cannot occur, for one, they did not pay for that seat, and some seats are priced differently. Number two, the center of gravity of the aircraft is dependent on where everybody is seated. So obviously during this time, you can bring up a situation where the passenger changed seats. The flight attendant told them they couldn't. They argued with the flight attendant. You intervened and politely explained that for the safety of the flight, the center of gravity has to land within certain points, so you need to return to your original seat because this is not based on the aisle that is pleasant. It's based on the safety and weight and balance center of gravity of the aircraft. Yeah, that's a pretty good circumstances. Use non-escalating tone and demeanor. So you're going to say to the interviewer, during this exchange, I took care as to use a tone and demeanor that was non-escalating of conflict. And it was really matter of fact and gentle, and actually, in a way, asking for their compliance or their end to their non-compliance. So a non-escalating demeanor and a soft and sympathetic demeanor I would use. This is the part of the politely aspect of the question, yeah. Point out the policies. So you can actually carry the manual, the book, the document that says, on our aircraft, the weight and balance, this is our weight and balance form. If you sit back here, it brings us outside the safe operation weight and balance parameters of the aircraft, and I'd hate to endanger you and everybody else and the safety of this flight. So I would kindly ask you to return to your original seat, right? So you're going to bring in, if you can, documentation. Otherwise, you can bring in a third party, and you can blame things on a third party. Let me verify this with the first officer. First officer, could you come here? Could you verify with me, please, that by this person moving the seat, this is going to violate our safe center of gravity envelope? It is? Okay. See, ma'am, it's really not me. I'm not doing this for my personal input, but it is a well-known company policy, and you really do have to comply with it. I apologize for the inconvenience, right? You're going to apologize for the inconvenience, right? All right. Convey penalty for non-compliance. Okay, so if it gets to it, you're going to kindly tell them that, you know, as policy, not only do we have to have people seated in their original seats for safety and weight and balance reasons, but we also must ensure that people are complying with flight attendant instructions. If we're not getting compliance with everybody on board as far as the flight attendant instructions on the ground, we could probably expect this to get worse in flight. So really what we're dealing with here is non-compliance, and non-compliance by a passenger of a flight attendant's instructions is penalized by removal of the flight, and we don't want to remove you from the flight. So if you don't mind, could you please return to your original seat, right? So you're going to introduce in a non-escalatory, polite way that there is a penalty for them non-complying, and tell them what that penalty is, and tell them that they don't want to incur that penalty. Yeah. Ask for cooperation kindly, and that comes from, if you don't mind, would you kindly cooperate with the flight attendant's instructions from here on out, right? Kindly cooperate, right? Bring in a third party to support you. Now, if you have to come in and you have to bring in what normally we call a ground security coordinator or a customer service manager. And you can bring them in and say to the manager, bring the manager in and say, you know, I want to get your, and you're doing this in front of the passenger, I would like to get your opinion. My manual says that they must be seated in the seat they're assigned. This goes through center of gravity. Now, I'm not sure if there's other things in your department that bolsters this requirement for them to remain in their seat, but I just want to bring this by and see what your suggestions are here. And they might say, well, if it's really important to so-and-so A, we can ask so-and-so B to switch seats. That's okay. We can do that as captain, and I would be willing to do that if the flight attendant is willing to do that. If you believe that the passenger will comply from here on out, just on that, I'm fully in agreement with that, right? So as you're coming up with a story, kind of try to include a lot of those elements in there. The key is that politely means that you're going to do it in a non-escalation, low-toned, kind way, and forcefully means that it is a safety and regulatory policy that cannot be altered, right? It cannot be, you can't just say, oh, well, it's just moving up 2 rows. It really doesn't have that importance. I was just going to make you sit there because we always make people sit in their seats. So if it's really, forcefully, the reason why you're doing it forcefully, meaning adamantly and will not divert from the outcome, is that it is documented and safety related, okay? So try to do something like that. Yeah, sound good? All right. If you have any comments or suggestions or have a specific situation that you've had to deal with this question in real life, you leave it in the comments below. Other than that, I appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. It helps me gain a wider audience. Thank you so much for joining me. I am the AirJobBoss. Join me at AirJobBoss.com if you'd like to figure out more about my one-on-one airline interview preparation. Thank you again.